As a massive RWBY fan, you can bet that the first ever announcement trailer for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle that ended like this
Now hang on just a minute.
was not only a massive shock to me, but something that immediately hooked me to Arc System Works games. I am such a big RWBY fan, and I've been there since Volume 1, and because like most of us, I'm a pretty selfish consumer and a bit of an impatient one, you can bet that I was a little bit disappointed to find out that this was not going to be a RWBY game, or at least that the roster wasn't going to be stacked with more RWBY characters, because if we look at BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle's roster, really you've got the absolute minimum amount of RWBY characters you could possibly have, which is a shame because the RWBY world is filled with amazing characters that could fill into a fighting game roster quite easily and offer for some very interesting gameplay. Something in particular that feels very lacking from the Cross Tag Battle roster is a RWBY villain. Somebody like Adam or Cinder I think would have fit perfectly onto the roster, but unfortunately, games take time to develop. Today I want to answer the question of whether a RWBY fighting game will ever actually be made from the ground up, or not necessarily from the ground up, but an Arc System Works RWBY fighting game with purely RWBY characters, no BlazBlue characters or anything like that. And the answer might surprise you. People over at Arc System Works have talked about wanting to make a RWBY game for quite some time, so I'm sure when they were given the opportunity to use RWBY characters in Cross Tag Battle, they jumped at it. In fact, I would not be surprised if the origin for Cross Tag Battle was in fact them getting access to the RWBY characters. They needed to find a way to put RWBY characters into a game, and they were like, well, let's make a crossover tagged style game so that we don't have to make all of these sprites. Because for people who don't know, sprites are a lot of work. Look at all of the RWBY sprites that are in the game right now. Yang's gameplay looks fantastic. All of those animations are insane. Look at RWBY, look at Weiss, look at Blake. All of these characters must have taken a ton of work. And whilst it hurts me personally a little bit to not see characters like Pyrrha and Crow and Raven, it wouldn't have been possible to do all of that work specifically for the RWBY side of the roster. It's much easier to take already existing sprites from other games and mess around with them and tweak them to make them look better for new games. It's much more difficult to build a sprite from the ground up. And because of Arc System's insistency of building these games in a 2D way, specifically with 2D sprites, which is very, very old school, especially at this point in the industry, so far anyway, it doesn't look like Arc System wants to change that. So in my head initially, I thought, well, maybe what's going to happen is because they want to use these RWBY characters and clearly there's a demand for it, they're probably going to use BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle as an initial mold, and then when Cross Tag Battle is done, start working on a brand new RWBY fighting game where they already have all of their work done for RWBY, Blake, Weiss, and Yang. However, I don't think that's going to happen either, because whilst yes, your work is done for characters like RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang, you're still running into the problem with the rest of the roster. Go look at all of the RWBY characters and come up with a roster. Pretty much every character featured in RWBY deserves a spot on this roster. You've obviously got the 4 main team members, which have already been done. Obviously you want Team Juniper as well, because of how popular they are. You probably want Penny, you probably want Crow, you probably want Ozpin, you probably want Raven. If you're including all of the characters from the time skip as well, you want Oscar. You definitely want Sun. Get Winter in there, because why not? You could have a duo character, like, so these would be 2 different characters in 1 character slot. Yatsuhachi and Fox. I can't believe I haven't mentioned Velvet, and we're not even done. There's so many characters I haven't mentioned. Neapolitan, Roman, Torchwick, Neon. All these amazing characters who haven't gotten their chance in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle and who I don't think are going to get their chance in a RWBY fighting game, because I don't think a RWBY fighting game is ever going to happen. I think what's more than likely is that Arc System Works will continue to push this Cross Tag Battle platform, which I think is really good because it gives an area for BlazBlue characters to exist, despite them not making BlazBlue games anymore. It gives RWBY characters a place to exist because we're not getting our own fighting game. It gives Under Night characters a place to exist, and as Arc System continues to grow as a developer, making Persona fighting games isn't going to be worth it anymore when they have access to IPs like Dragon Ball, and possibly even Naruto, and other anime titles that Bandai owns. So after BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, what I think that team is going to work on is BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle 2, where I hope we see a very similar trend, but hopefully some more respect for the RWBY roster. If I was to increase the RWBY roster at all, I would of course have to add Team Juniper, and personally I would go with a villain like Cinder or Adam, although it does hurt for me to not just say Velvet. So whilst this video may not have come to the same conclusion that you were hoping for, because as a massive RWBY fan I would like to be able to say that yes, RWBY is going to get its own fighting game, I think it's much more realistic to just expect Arc System Works to continue to do what they're doing, and hopefully continue to push Cross Tag Battle. So if you want to see more RWBY characters in fighting games in the future, all you have to do is support Arc System Works through this endeavor of Cross Tag Battle, and you damn well bet that I will be. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. My name has been Bilbsy, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.